This is Teachers Talk Radio, and you are listening live.
Welcome to the Monday morning break. I'm Kanda Kotik, your host. And with me today is An Nguyệt Nguyen, an ESL teacher from Hanoi, Vietnam.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and you are listening live. Tune in live at ttradio.org, or to join in the conversation, download the Podbean app and search Teachers Talk Radio. Follow the hashtag TTRadio. Tune in, talk it out with Teachers Talk Radio.
So, hello. Welcome to the show, dear listeners. It's great to have you with us, whether you're listening live or listening back to the podcast. Now, in the last few shows, and if you've missed them, you can actually listen back to the podcast. They're all on our website. In the last few shows, I've been speaking with my guests about different aspects of teaching EAL, English as an additional language. Now, you might think, right, that for anyone who's learning English, aside their first language, that's the additional language. So you might ask, like, what's with all the terminology? EAL, ELL, EFL, ESL, MLL, and the list goes on. Well, EAL, as we discussed in the last couple of episodes, is the acronym for English as an Additional Language, and this is a term used to refer to, now wait for this, is the term used to refer to the teaching of English, the English language, in international schools where the medium of instruction is English. And the children in these schools who do not have English as their home language learn English as their additional language, and they have, therefore, EAL classes to support and prepare them for studying English. Now, this isn't just in international schools. The terminologies and acronyms will be different, but there are similar language support classes in mainstream schools in other countries where English is the language of education. So places like the United States, the United Kingdom, Australia, right? Anywhere where there are children from non-English speaking backgrounds who are then in the school system. Now, ESL, English as a second language, and its counterpart EFL, English as a foreign language, are the terms used to refer to the learning and teaching of English alongside other subjects in the school curriculum. And I mean, that's just a simple explanation. We do have EFL in adult education as well. Now, today's conversation with my guest, An Nguyệt Nguyen, should make it clear what what ESL is. An Nguyệt Nguyen is a high school, a secondary school teacher in Hanoi, I believe in Hanoi, Vietnam. And I can see that you're there, and I need you to click on the call in button, please. And when whoopsie. Okay, so our guest should be joining us very shortly, and there you are. Say hello.
Hello, everyone. Hi.
Hi. Really good to have you here on the show. As I was saying in my promotion for the show, I'm really excited to take a peek, little peek into your life as a teacher. I only know the lives of the teachers I encounter here in Germany or in the UK. I'd like to hear very much about your life, but first of all, how are you today?
It's been good. It's a Monday, the start of the week. Just started the new semester today. It's been a lot of work, but I guess I've tried to set a time for this show.
That's great. I'm really, really thankful that you're taking the time to do this and start off the new semester, you were saying. So let's see, it's the 1st of July, it's a new semester for you. So that's a good place to start. Tell us
Yes.
about the school system in Vietnam. When do children start school and how do you break up those years of compulsory schooling?
Well, normally they would have 1 to 2 months of summer break. So particularly my school will start from July, but maybe other schools they will start from August. In terms of the schooling system in Vietnam, we have um, 3 levels of education system, just like the other surrounding countries, I believe, like Laos, Cambodia, or Thailand. The primary school, we have 5 levels, and then the next 4 levels in the secondary school, and then in high school, from grade 9 to grade 12. I believe high school in Vietnam is like similar to the upper secondary level in the Cambridge program, I think.
Okay, okay. So that's quite interesting. So you actually split the secondary school levels. And
Mm.
when, at a minimum, when are children allowed to leave school? So, for example, in Germany, um, children can, or rather, children stay in school until the age of, not the age, but until year 10. So we have 4 years of primary school, and then they can do 6 years in secondary school and leave at the age of 16, 17, or they can stay on 2 years and do their university qualifying exams. They're similar to A levels. We call them your Abitur.
Okay, yes. Yeah,
Um, what if
with
when Vietnamese kids or young people decide to leave school?
it's actually compulsory here to attend their schooling levels from grade 1 to grade 12. So they will be leaving at exactly 18, and it's pretty much compulsory.
Oh
And then,
wow, okay,
yes,
interesting.
higher
So they,
education is optional. Like they can choose to go to colleges or universities or just, you know, do something else.
okay, that's interesting. So they stay in compulsory schooling until 18. Wow,
Yes.
that's rough. That's a long time to be in school if if you don't have a pleasant experience, and that's really rough. What kind of subjects do children do at primary school? So as a contrast, my son has English, math, and German as what they call the core subjects, and then they rotate each school year. Half a year they'll do music, the other half they do art, and then they have physical education, and then they have a subject called general studies, which depending on the school year, they might have something historical, something geographical, something
Yes.
science based.
Well, I guess it's a little bit different here. Like, of course, in Vietnam, we do have the core subjects like languages, maths, and literature. Like, you learn the language, your mother tongue. But then, from primary school, they have already started learning about history, geography, and they are different subjects separated. In They do have physical education obviously throughout the 12 years of learning, but in terms of arts related subjects like drawing, dancing, music, let's say, um, it will stop at the end of the secondary school, like when they have finished grade 9. From high school upward, they need to focus on studying for the university entrance exam. Basically, English, maths, literature, and some natural science subjects or social science subjects depends on what they want to study in the university.
Okay, so wow, so that's where already at primary school you have that difference between the system that I know. That's a
Yeah.
lot of subjects. That is a
Yes,
lot of
actually.
subjects. Mm. And are they assessed? Do students have exams for those? Like my son, here, my son's in primary school at the moment, and in Germany, primary school is just 4 years. Elementary school, also known as elementary school, that's just 4 years. And in the first 2 years, they have no assessment. They have no exams, not formative, not summative. And their
Wow.
first exams, they write their first exams in year three, and that's when they get grades then on their report cards. But in the first 2 school years, they do get report cards each half year, but that's a description of feedback. It's a description of their progress and what their strengths and what what their strengths are and what has been challenging for them. And then only from year three, then they get grades. What's that like in Vietnam in the elementary school?
So the difference is actually pretty major right here already, because when I was in Laos, like 2 years or 3 years ago, I was teaching in the Cambridge program, so I actually know that at the end of the school year or every semester, you provide the parents or the guardians with the the performance cards, uh, providing their weaknesses and their strengths in different areas of the school year. But and in some schools in Vietnam, but not a lot of them. We do have some international schools here that follow the Cambridge programs. They do that, but they do need to adapt with the requirement of our government here. Like every student in Vietnam since grade one, they are provided with a book of academic transcript. The book will go with them from grade one until grade 12. So every year, their school or their homeroom teacher will send the book of academic transcript to the next level, to the next teacher. And then in Vietnam, or I believe in mostly the other Oriental countries, we are very heavy on assessing the students formative, summative, every uh,
Mm.
few months, every half a semester, every school year. Um, I believe that when I was a kid, there actually was an exam of secondary school entrance. Like if you actually failed the exam, you are not allowed to go to the secondary school. But now it's gone. So they will
Oh,
just,
okay. Well, that's good.
yeah, they will just read the academic transcript of the kid and then let them go to a suitable secondary school.
All
However,
right.
the high school and the university entrance exams are still here, and and actually we have just finished those two exams a few weeks and a few days ago in Vietnam, and the students actually have to study majorly to pass those exams to enter, let's say, good or distinguished high schools or university here in Vietnam. It's quite
Okay,
heavy
so it's
here,
quite
actually.
quite competitive as well.
Yes, actually.
Yeah, yeah. That's an interesting system. I think it's similar to what I had experienced when I was growing up and had gone to school in
Yeah.
Singapore.
Yes,
I had,
actually.
yeah, and you said it. You mentioned that with the East Asian countries, um, that and East and Southeast Asian countries actually. So I did have when I don't know if that has changed now, but I had my 6 years of primary school, and then I had exams, and based on the grades, I received or the points scored in total, then I would go to the next level up, 4 years of secondary school. And then there were exams again. I mean, we had exams throughout, but then we had qualifying exams again, which was then for the
See,
next two, was for junior college, which is what you would call high school. Now, in Germany, we don't have those exams at the elementary school. So, um, like I was sharing, we have just the two, right? We just have the year three and year four where they have assessment throughout. It's continuous assessment, and then to register for secondary school, you just go with your transcript and find a school that would take you on the basis of your grades. Um,
actually,
when you mentioned that about the report card, it brought me back to my days in Singapore as well, because we had also a book. It was a book, and it stayed with the school, and it went with you from year to year,
yes,
and right, and then your teachers can always look back and see the progress that you've made. Um, yeah, that's actually quite a good system, especially if you've always got different teachers.
yeah,
In primary school in Germany, in many schools, I wouldn't say it's all schools, but in many schools, well, primary and secondary, definitely in primary schools, um, the kids have the same teacher for 4 years. Um,
I see.
yeah, I mean, it can be a good thing, it can be a bad thing. If you don't get on with the teacher, then it's not ideal. Um,
Yeah, I guess actually in Vietnam, some schools, some teachers will go along with the students for the whole school, like what for elementary school or the whole 4 years of secondary school, the same in high school. But at some schools, and actually now the government is encouraging the schools to have different teachers for the kids throughout the year because they want the diversity, the variation of teaching methods or the style. So, you know, just so the kids are not bored or too familiar with just one teacher.
Mm, I think what you're saying there with that familiarity, yeah, so that they're not too familiar, and I think also diversity is important because teachers will have their own style, and then if you've got a classroom with children, with pupils, with very many different learning styles, some teaching styles may work with some learner styles, and some
Yeah.
may not work, right? So you
Yes.
want to give you want to give children a fair chance to have them succeed. And if you have, for a child to see, okay, well, I'm struggling here with this teacher, but I know that maybe in the next school year or in the next half year, I'll be getting a new teacher, and maybe, I can succeed there. It's different from a child who knows who's struggling, and who knows, I'm going to be with this person for the next 3 years. Um,
Yes.
that's that's really not cool. Tell me about class sizes. What are the average class sizes at the different levels of study?
Mm, actually, now most schools are following, let's say, 20 to 30 students only. Um, but like I have to say that 5 or 10 years ago, even when I was going to school, there was like 50 students in the classroom. But it's been changing now. Most schools only have small size classes. But I mean, yes, 20 to 30 is still a little bit big compared to other countries. Like when I was in Spain or when I was in other countries, it was just 15 to 20, I think. But then
Wow.
still, we do have, because I mean, Hanoi is a, let's say, it's considered a big city, the capital of Vietnam. But I did visit some rural areas in Vietnam, and I still saw some schools with even more than 50 students in the classroom. It depends, but let's say the education system in Vietnam is still developing. and changing towards the better, let's say.
That's amazing. I mean, what you say about 50 and more in a class. I've only ever heard from teachers in India or Pakistan in the state school system who've mentioned
Yeah,
that they've got, class sizes with that number of students. The norm in Germany is between 20 and 30. You generally don't get up to 30. When I was
yeah,
in school, you said when you were in school you had about 50. When I was in school, I think I only ever had 32. I think a couple of years there were 32 of us, and then a couple of years there was 36.
yeah,
We'd never gone beyond that. I think
yes. So
private schools, right? Private schools have, those in Europe anyway, the high fee paying schools. They're the schools that have the luxury or can, and will be
yeah, I
able to
see.
have
Yes,
classes with smaller class sizes. But I think most places 30, between 25, 30, that's the norm.
yeah.
Um, let's listen to the news. First, let's hear what's happening around what education news we have. And then when we come back, I'd like to hear about your school day, what it looks like. And then we'll talk about, teaching English. So we'll be back shortly.
Right. Thank you.
Hi teachers, we're Apps for Good and we give schools like yours free introductory computing courses. Our courses are for everyone, including those who aren't computing teachers, and they're fully equipped with resources mapped to the UK computing curriculum. Independent learning is central to our courses. Your students will develop essential and digital skills by working in teams to create prototype apps for good. We'll even connect you with industry volunteers to give real-world feedback. Let's empower every young person you teach to shape their future with technology. Speak to us at www.appsforgood.org. Imagine having your own instructional coach available 24/7. Now you can with the Teaching How-Tos platform. This highly personalised social platform empowers busy teachers to learn and apply evidence-based teaching techniques, either independently, working collaboratively with their peers, or with our new AI assistant. The platform features over 160 visual guides to teaching techniques, designed to help you quickly and easily implement high-impact practices that boost student engagement and improve learning outcomes. Join over 200 institutions worldwide that are elevating their teaching practices with the How-To app. No gurus, just practical support anytime you need it. Interested in finding out more? Visit teachinghowtos.com and register for our next webinar.
Empowering education with Easy for You, where innovation meets accessibility. Our subscription-based offering not only equips schools with cutting-edge devices, but revolutionizes the learning experience by eliminating financial barriers, streamlining support, and embracing technology. We're not just providing tools, we're shaping a future where every student can thrive, unburdened by limitations. Easy for You, transforming education, one device at a time. Find out more at www.easyforyou.school.
This show is brought to you in partnership with John Catt Educational, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Don't miss out. Level up your professional development today and visit johncattbookshop.com to explore the full range of titles. Use the code JCTTR2425 for 20% off your order. Happy reading.
Are you looking for best practices and innovative strategies to foster confident, lifelong readers? Watch sessions by thought leaders in education, literacy experts, and EdTech specialists from the International Reading Conference for free. The lineup included renowned speakers such as TV personality and education expert Basit Siddiqui, and beloved children's author Michael Rosen. The three-day conference explored a range of topics at the forefront of the current educational landscape, with sessions relevant for all educators and key stages. Sign up to receive the recordings for free by visiting the Reading Solutions UK website at readingsolutionsuk.co.uk.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and this is Teachers Talk Radio News.
Artificial intelligence is in the news after a study at a UK university conducted a real-life Turing test. The University of Reading published its findings in the PLOS ONE Science Journal. In the study, 33 alias student profiles were set up by the university's tech team. The alias students were all completing Bachelor of Science degrees in psychology across different years of study. The researchers helped the students to complete a range of exams and online assignments using unedited answers written by ChatGPT-4. Researchers found that 94% of their AI submissions slipped by the examiners unnoticed, and the AI students did better than their peers, with an 83.4% chance they could outperform a random selection of real student submissions. One of the study's authors said it should be a wake-up call for educators. A recent UNESCO survey found that less than 10% of schools worldwide have policies or guidance in place regarding generative AI. Further details of the study can be found in the PLOS ONE Science Journal. Middlesbrough Council East of England is to trial auto-enrolment for free school meals, according to the local government website. The pilot scheme will ensure automatic enrolment as a safety net for children whose families do not apply. Parents will have the right to opt out. The council said reasons for families not claiming free school meals included not understanding the application process, low levels of literacy, language barriers, and stigma. A sample of 60 Middlesbrough households found 11 eligible families were not signed up for free school meals, and the council said this meant schools missing out on thousands of pounds in funding. A similar process introduced in Sheffield in 2016 saw £3.8 million worth of extra pupil premium funding allocated as a result of auto-enrolment. The Star in Sheffield reports that universities in the city have launched litter patrols to reduce what they call end-of-term dumping. According to the article, enforcers will be out in force over the coming days as tenancies come to an end and 50,000 students move out of their rented accommodation. The joint approach by Sheffield and Hallam universities comes after residents complained about piles of rubbish left on pavements. Both universities have said that they work closely with the City Council and give regular reminders to students to put excess waste in bags neatly outside. A spokesperson went on to highlight that since 2013, students in Sheffield have raised over £1 million for the British Heart Foundation by donating items at the end of term rather than throwing them out. Schools Week reports that trusts are warning they face having to make significant redundancies and have no choice but to exclude vulnerable children following shock cuts to SEND budgets in the middle of the year. Multi-academy trusts have written to Norfolk County Council in a last-ditch bid to avoid a funding cliff edge, after learning last week how a revised approach to top-up funding would impact them. As first reported by Schools Week in January, Norfolk was not then on track to meet its government safety valve agreement. In January, it received £70 million to balance its high-needs budget, but was told to submit revised plans and to join an enhanced monitoring scheme. The council has adjusted overall top-up funding allocations to remain within budget, but this means allocations will fall. The council acknowledge it will create some challenges for schools. The letter, signed by the heads of 5 multi-academy trusts in the area, have revealed their shock and disappointment and stated it will result in significant redundancies. It goes on to say the effect on children will be negative in the extreme. The full article can be read on the Schools Week website. Finally, the BBC News website reports that Japanese Emperor Naruhito has returned to Oxford University as part of his state visit. The Emperor, then Crown Prince, attended Merton College, complete with security detail, during the early 1980s. A former roommate of the Emperor said he was very down to earth and didn't use a title, preferring to be called Hero whilst he completed his studies. This has been your Teachers Talk Radio News with Joe Fox.
So we are back. Welcome to all of you who've joined us in the interim. My guest today is An Nguyệt Nguyen from Vietnam, a high school teacher in Vietnam. And we have just been talking about just the school system. We've been sharing about our different school systems, the subjects that children take, and we talk about class sizes, exams, and report cards. And now I'd like to hear about what a typical school day looks like. So here in Germany, we start at 5 to 8, so schools start between 10 to 8 and 5 past 8, and most schools finish from between primary school and lower secondary, they finish between 12:30 and 1:15, so just after midday. How is it in Vietnam, in where you are?
Well, in primary school, the students are still following a whole day schooling system. They stay at school from the morning until the afternoon. However, in the secondary school and in high school, they will actually study at school for the morning only or the afternoon only. And then the rest of the day they can do other things they want, like additional activities, joining clubs and other stuff, I guess.
Okay, that's interesting because I was going to also ask you what kids do for fun. So you have a split shift. I had that when I was in school. We had either the morning session or the afternoon session because our schools at the time when I was in school, our schools were so small and we couldn't accommodate all the levels. So we'd have certain levels that would come from 7:30 to just after 1 o'clock, and then we'd swap. The other levels would start at just after 1 and go on to 6. Um, it's quite interesting what you say, that the kids in elementary school and primary school stay in school all day. You say they stay in school all day. Do they not have lessons all day then? Or what does all day mean? What time do you begin and what time do they go home?
They would normally start school at 8 in the morning, and then as a whole day school, and most primary schools in Vietnam still do this. They do have lunch at school, and then they have their nap time and stuff, and after they wake up from the nap, they are provided with snacks and stuff to have energy for the afternoon. They will leave school quite early in the afternoon, actually, 4 p.m. Yeah,
All right, okay, so it's not just, lessons and learning all day
no,
then. Okay. Um, yeah, so kind of, I think similar. I mean, my kids, primary school kids in Germany, elementary school kids in the years that they're 6 years old to 10 years old, they start school around about 8 o'clock, and their lessons finish at the latest at 1 o'clock, 10 past 1, and then they have their lunch break, and then we have, I mean, children who go into after school care, they eat lunch in school, and then they can stay in after school care until 4 o'clock because, their parents work. Children who don't have after school care, so not everybody gets a place. Children who don't go into after school care actually can go home
I see.
at 10 past 1. Yeah, and the
Oh,
kids who stay in after school care, they they get their lunch. They have an hour of supervised homework. So, they go into their own classrooms, um, and they
Right.
sit there and do their homework. So that means that when they come home, most kids, when they come home, their homework will have been done, so they don't have to do it.
I see. Yeah, it's
Yes,
very
so
different here.
that's quite convenient, though I have to say it's quite convenient.
Yes, it
So for
is.
you as a teacher, what does a school day look like for you?
It starts quite early for high school students, actually. Um, the first class starts from 7 a.m., which is very early, in my opinion. The same with secondary school students. Um, and
That's
then
mega
like,
early.
and then they will normally have a 5 period uh, morning time. Each period will be 45 minutes. Pretty standard in Vietnam. It hasn't been changing because even when I was in school, like 15 years ago, yeah, um, it was the same. It was 45 minutes, and we have 10-minute breaks in between the lessons, and then we go home. If we study in the afternoon, but as a teacher, I do stay at school for the whole day. Normally, the office time for me is 8 until 5 p.m. But sometimes I have to come in earlier or I have to leave later. Depends on the time of the school year, I guess.
That's a very long day. That is
Exactly.
a very long day. And are you involved only in the teaching of English? Are you only an ESL teacher, or do you have other responsibilities? Do you teach other subjects? So, um, teachers in Germany,
Hmm.
they have to train when they do their teacher training. They train for two teaching subjects, and they're
I
qualified
see.
then to teach two subjects, and they have to teach two subjects. So for the young people that I work with, they would normally be teachers of English plus one other subject, maybe
Oh, I
history
see.
or German or
Oh,
PE.
it's a little bit different here in Vietnam. For primary school teachers, actually, they have one homeroom teacher only for each class in the primary level. The teacher will teach basically all of the subjects. Yeah, and during their university time or teacher training time, they are trained to be a primary school teacher. But but in terms of secondary school and high school in Vietnam, we are allowed to teach one subject only. But it's quite impossible to teach more than one subject because it's according to me it's pretty heavy in Vietnam in terms of the assessment and then the exam system in our country. It's pretty difficult for one teacher in secondary and high schools to teach more than one subject. I do only teach English. And then, additionally, because I'm not sure about what's going on in Europe right now, but, in non-English speaking countries, especially in Asia, the IELTS certificates or other languages um, uh, certification are in trend actually. And students don't just teach grammar in English anymore. They have to be able to communicate and then to have certification in order to get into universities actually now in Vietnam, or if they want to, they can study abroad or work abroad. So English, but not just grammar anymore. Like let's say when I was in school, it's a little
Okay,
bit
so
different now.
right, so I mean that's quite a shift, isn't it? And also it puts on a lot of pressure on learners and on teachers with
Yes,
these high
actually.
stakes standardized exams. I have heard from a different colleague who is teaching in Vietnam that
Well, I see.
these exams, right, the IELTS exam, they're very big. They're kind of like the go-to external qualification for English language that a lot of learners aspire to do. And
Yes.
you mentioned it's, have I understood you correctly? It's a university entry requirement as well. So if they apply for university, they need to show that they have,
Actually, yes.
even if
Y-
they're not studying, like if they decide, to go to university and study French, they'd still have to have,
Yes. It's like a basic thing now
right.
in Vietnam. The government is trying to make it a standard. Like English is not a foreign language anymore.
Mm,
Because when I was in
okay.
school years ago, it was EFL, English as a foreign language. But now the government is making it the second language. So it's like basically you need to be able to use English, especially when you are trying to study or attend universities in big cities in Vietnam, because even the lecturers, they are lecturing in English most of the time now.
Okay.
Yes, so
Okay.
even
So
when you
it's,
are studying something not English related, another language, the requirement to be admitted into this university is, you need at least this or that in proficiency of English. IELTS is very trendy right now in Vietnam, actually.
okay. So it's kind of raised the profile, isn't it? It's kind of raised the importance of of
Yes,
English, and I suppose in the long term, one can see the advantage of having a large population that's almost bilingual, right? They have their first
yes,
language, they have their home language, and they have a good working knowledge, of English. Even if they didn't go to university, they'd leave high school with a good working knowledge of English.
yeah,
And I mean, and if they didn't get that high IELTS score, they would probably do English classes elsewhere.
yes,
Wow. So you have IELTS, and you were saying that whole, from what I understand, that whole communicative language teaching has it fallen by the wayside? Has it lost importance, because now it's a lot of it is just teaching to the test, teaching, you know, for IELTS success.
yeah. Actually, it's a big problem now. Actually, like some teachers are just teaching students or learners to, to do the test, the IELTS exam, but then, some I do have some students who have quite high scores in IELTS and then cannot really hold conversation with me in English for, like, let's say 15 minutes, even with just daily conversation with basic topics, because they are, let's say they're too practical, and they just want the certificate to enter universities. And I don't think it's good. I guess in the long run, most students or most learners in Vietnam will be able to use English basically, but then is it really communicated? That's actually a big problem. I do think so.
Mm, yeah, it's just they're teaching to the test, they're learning for the test, but they lack the day to day conversation skills. It's a very, how would you say, it's a very narrow way of thinking of English
Yeah,
proficiency. So from what I understand, English ESL as a subject in high school, it's compulsory. So you don't have any student who would say, no, I don't want to take English, because in
no, they
Germany at
cannot.
six, they cannot, because in Germany at 16, they then choose which exams they want to take at during A levels, and they can at age 16 say, so in year 10 they can say that they're dropping English, and they don't actually need to take any other foreign language. What kind of materials do you then use in your teaching? Do you create your own materials? Do you just use grammar books or exam preparation materials? What do you do? What's your, you know? What are some of your teaching strategies?
Yeah, that's a good question because when I was in school, it was like grammar books and then exam preparation books, basically. But then now, I don't think any school in Vietnam is allowed to do that anymore. Um, the Vietnam Education Publishing House actually has several versions of standardized books for all the subjects. It depends on the school to choose which sets of books they want to follow. In terms of English, we are using an adaptation of English Discovery, which is quite standardized, I think.
Okay,
It is adapted for Vietnamese students at our school. But then
right,
I have actually looked at the other sets. It's actually the same. Like we have global success. Of course, in at international schools, they will use uh, the Cambridge books, obviously.
right. They'll use one of the more mainstream books
Yes,
that are, written for that market. But
yes,
interesting what you said, that the government has its own set of books,
yes,
and teachers can choose from that. That's really interesting. I think I had the same when I was growing up in school. They were books that were published by, it was back then, it was a department called the Curriculum Development Institute of Singapore. And I can see the sense in that, because what you've got then, right, is that you've got content that's very culturally sensitive,
yes.
suited to the background of the audience that you're working with. We've got a few messages from our sponsors, and then I'd like to talk to you about the learners and how, what it's like working with um, Vietnamese L1
Mm-hmm.
speakers, teaching them English with, pronunciation and things like that. So we'll be back in just a few moments.
All right.
Hi teachers, we're Apps for Good, and we give schools like yours free introductory computing courses. Our courses are for everyone, including those who aren't computing teachers, and they're fully equipped with resources mapped to the UK computing curriculum. Independent learning is central to our courses. Your students will develop essential and digital skills by working in teams to create prototype apps for good. We'll even connect you with industry volunteers to give real-world feedback. Let's empower every young person you teach to shape their future with technology. Speak to us at www.appsforgood.org. Imagine having your own instructional coach available 24/7. Now you can with the Teaching How-Tos platform. This highly personalised social platform empowers busy teachers to learn and apply evidence-based teaching techniques, either independently, working collaboratively with their peers, or with our new AI assistant. The platform features over 160 visual guides to teaching techniques, designed to help you quickly and easily implement high-impact practices that boost student engagement and improve learning outcomes. Join over 200 institutions worldwide that are elevating their teaching practices with the How-To app. No gurus, just practical support anytime you need it. Interested in finding out more? Visit teachinghowtos.com and register for our next webinar.
Empowering education with Easy for You, where innovation meets accessibility. Our subscription-based offering not only equips schools with cutting-edge devices, but revolutionizes the learning experience by eliminating financial barriers, streamlining support, and embracing technology. We're not just providing tools, we're shaping a future where every student can thrive, unburdened by limitations. Easy for You, transforming education, one device at a time. Find out more at www.easyforyou.school.
This show is brought to you in partnership with John Catt Educational, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Don't miss out. Level up your professional development today and visit johncattbookshop.com to explore the full range of titles. Use the code JCTTR2425 for 20% off your order. Happy reading.
Are you looking for best practices and innovative strategies to foster confident, lifelong readers? Watch sessions by thought leaders in education, literacy experts, and EdTech specialists from the International Reading Conference for free. The lineup included renowned speakers such as TV personality and education expert Basit Siddiqui and beloved children's author Michael Rosen. The three-day conference explored a range of topics at the forefront of the current educational landscape, with sessions relevant for all educators and key stages. Sign up to receive the recordings for free by visiting the Reading Solutions UK website at readingsolutionsuk.co.uk.
So we are back for the last bit in our show. For those of you who've just joined us, along the way we've been speaking with An Nguyen Nguyen, an ESL teacher based in Hanoi, Vietnam. We've spoken about just the Vietnamese school system in general, which I have found really, really exciting. And An Nguyen is an ESL teacher in a high school, and An Nguyen was just sharing about how they're for the age groups after elementary school, they're split into secondary school and high school. And high school is the stage where they prepare for university. And we were talking about English, what they do, how English has moved from English as a foreign language to English as a second language, where also students who go on to apply for university entry need to show qualifications in English, and many of them do take external standardized exams. And now in this bit, I wanted to hear about the Vietnamese learner of English. I've been trying to learn Vietnamese. Don't laugh. It's a bit of a challenge for me. I've been trying, and I know that for me as an English speaker and also someone who does speak German and has learned German as a second language, the pronunciation is, for me, quite difficult. And also reading Vietnamese, especially with the diacritics above the vowels, that is for me challenging, because I can imagine what they mean, but I just can't make the sounds. So, An Nguyen, what's it like for a Vietnamese child, teen, youth to learn English?
Recently, it's been it's been quite a shift actually. When I was in school, I kept talking about when I was in school because it's actually very different right now. When I was in school, I actually did start knowing English in primary school, but it wasn't really anything. It was just like, hey, going to school, and then you know how to say hi and hello, very basic. But then when
So
I
English through
entered,
play, right?
yeah,
English through
but
play,
when I
essentially.
entered secondary school, everything changed very sudden. But it was 15 years ago actually. It was just grammar. You need to absorb the knowledge in order to take the assessment exam to be able to go to high schools and universities. But now it's different because beside that, beside that very heavy thing, you need to show the school, the high schools and the universities you are qualified in using English. And then now parents in Vietnam are actually having their children uh, playing with English since even nursery school and then kindergarten. But then in primary school they started to have real English classes with a quite communicative um, focus. I do believe so because my cousin is still in primary school now, actually. And is it still difficult for them to communicate or to use English on a daily basis? Yes, I still have students right now in high school at the age of 17 and very good in English grammar, but not being able to answer me, why are you late today, or have you had breakfast? I mean, the person actually understood my question, but what was very passive in being able to respond to my very simple questions.
Do you think it's their lack of confidence? Do you think it could be an insecurity about their pronunciation? I mean, Vietnamese is a tonal language and English isn't. So I'm just
Yeah.
wondering, like, if, a lot of the lessons focus on exam preparation, which means it's very little speaking. A lot of it is, here are the grammar rules, or, here's a reading passage, let's read it, let's answer the comprehension questions, or, let's write about this. That means there's a lot of focus on reading and writing, but oral
Yes.
production um, is kind of left out, and maybe young people find, you know, they're shy to speak because they're not sure whether their pronunciation, their intonation is correct. What do you think? Why do your learners, cannot answer what did you have for breakfast? I mean, it's the same with mine, but mine are just they're just terribly shy. They think I'm and
Yes,
also they think I'm
actually.
asking them a trick question.
Yeah. Um. Yes, I do think so. That is, it's because of how they are not too confident yet in. I do think that they realize that they are pronouncing English in their way, but then they think that it's wrong. And I've been telling my students that that's not wrong. That's just your way of speaking English. There's no correct way of speaking English, basically. But then because the thing is, Vietnam has been changing in terms of just the languages, the foreign languages only. The other subjects, I do believe that are still taught in very traditional ways of, you know, testing preparation only. And then it is actually, I believe so, it is drilled into their brain that it is very embarrassing to be wrong, so they are so
Ah,
afraid to be wrong. Yeah, they like it's like for them being wrong in is so bad, and I should not be wrong. So instead of being wrong and having me as their teacher trying to fix those problems, they will just not do anything. So in order to avoid being wrong, which is a very
right.
um like I guess it's a deeply rooted mindset of most Asian people. I'm not really sure, but I do have friends or people I know are like that. Like you are afraid to be wrong.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that. I have had students from Asian heritage backgrounds who for them, right, to make a mistake, and even though as a teacher, I mean, I do it also with my own students who do not come from Asian backgrounds, and I say to them, it's okay, just speak, and you can learn from your mistakes, but they are terribly self-conscious of
Yeah,
making a mistake. And if they feel that there's anything in what they're going to say, if there's anything that's going to be wrong, they'd just rather not say it. So they'll never know if their answer to you, right, to a simple question of what did you have for breakfast today. I have a question for my students, what are you doing at the weekend? They're just terribly afraid to say anything about that.
yeah,
Um, we've actually come to the end of our show, to the end of our time, but
Really?
I would like to,
Oh,
yeah, I know time
yeah.
flies, and I know you have to go back to teaching, but one thing I wanted to ask you is, I know, our own systems, they're not ideal, and we always kind
Yeah.
of look and think, oh, I wish this and this could change, but I want to ask you a different question. And my question is, what is one thing that you would not change about your system? One thing that you wouldn't change.
I mean, it's been changing, and I mean, the government, or the managers in our Ministry of Education, they know what they're doing, and I think they've been going towards the right direction. It's just, not every good things take a lot of time. But the one thing that I would like to keep is to ditch the grammar, too much focus on grammar and exam preparation. I've been liking going back to Vietnam. I've just been back to Vietnam for a year actually, but I do know about the system because I am I am a person here, and my mom is a teacher, so she tells me things that been going on in Vietnam. I do like the way that most schools right now are focusing on communicative approach of teaching foreign languages instead of just grammar, writing, reading. So it's better right now. I want it to keep I want it to be kept that way. But in terms of the requirement in certification, it is good, but then it created a problem, as I have mentioned, and you have told me that they are just too focused on studying for that exam only, and then they are not really learning or using the language. Yeah, that's a shame actually.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you very much. And when thank you for your insights. I've always been really curious, and I'm sure our other listeners who are not as close to the context as you are. This has been a really a big eye opener for us. I've enjoyed sharing with you about our system here. So thank you for your time.
Thank you
Um,
for having me.
I wish you, yeah, I hope you have a good class. I know you'll go back to teaching. And
Yes.
ladies and gentlemen, listeners, that's all we've got time for today. We have many other shows this week, and you can find them on ttradio.org. You can also listen to the ones that you've missed. And thank you. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Have a good rest of your day, rest of your week, wherever you are. Goodbye.
Right. Thank you everyone. Goodbye, goodbye, and thank you for having me again. Thank you.
You've been listening to Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live and listen back at ttradio.org. We look forward to hearing from you next time on Teachers Talk Radio.